Hello everyone, Simon here from Higher Plane Music, and I hope you're well. Welcome to this second video in the PR One Sheet campaign series, and this one's all about understanding where it is that you and your fans are going to call home online. I've got some quite specific things that I want to say about this, and they're very much personal preferences, so please do take what I say with a pinch of salt and apply what's best logic to you. However, what I would say is that I've been working with artists and musicians that have submitted stuff to me, or I've worked with them to create campaigns for the many years now. So I've kind of got into a pattern of seeing what works. So let's go at it. Primarily, what you're calling home is going to be where you divert all of your traffic to. And that's why it's important to know before you start sending out your one sheet PR campaign, because ultimately you're going to be asking for a call to action. And that could be looking at a video, looking at a song, downloading or pre-saving, whatever it is that's the current flavour of the day. But ultimately, you're also going to be putting on their links to where you call home. And if you scattergun approach and be everywhere but nowhere, people are going to veer off in different places, and it's going to be very difficult for you to give them a cohesive message for all of that stuff that we talked about in the first video. I personally recommend having a personal website that you run, own and maintain, either through being able to do it yourself or by hiring a webmaster to kind of set it up for you so that you can easily update it with content. The reason why I ask and kind of recommend this to artists to do is because it's the one place on the internet that you can truly own the content, maintain it, the look, the feel, how long the content is up for, and how it's displayed to all of your people that come to visit it. Whenever you get onto a social media campaign and you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, they're all guilty of it. They've got their own algorithms by design. It's not there to support you personally. It is there to support their business model. And so if their business model changes and Facebook groups no longer become a thing in 2 years' time, if you've heavily invested in that, it is super difficult to then get people to shift from one place to another. So if you automatically have it from the get-go of, I'm available on these platforms, but you'll find most of my content here, you are already orientating everyone towards a central place that makes sense for you, but also for your fans. That's that one source of information, the one version of the truth, the way how they get all of the latest information about you, especially if they care. Flashback to video one. Now, when you go onto your website, there's going to be several different things that you need to take into account if you're going to build it. And I put content into two different categories. You've got your evergreen content, which is your About Me page. Remember the stuff that we was talking about from video one, but also things like if you're going to put lyrics on there, that would be a really good example. A merch section and a store if you're going to do that, even if that's just a link out to a CD Baby or a Bandcamp page, for example. It's still embedded into that website so that it looks and feels and stays pretty much the same throughout and gives you that kind of introductory tour to me as an artist as you kind of go around and enjoy the different attractions on the website. They can almost become what's also called cornerstone content, which is you showing you at your best. The second category of content is much more around what will drive you back returning visitors who will care more and more and be more and more interested and engaged with you as you give out more content. And this could be the most prime example of that is a blog. But then how you do that blog can be entirely up to you. It could be photo only, in which case you could pull in an Instagram feed and have that as your blog as well. It could be behind the scenes videos if you're on Twitch or YouTube, for example, showing how you've created music, if you want to give that kind of behind the scenes insight. It could be a combination of all different things. It could just be written out as almost like a Dear Diary. It's about what works for you, but it needs to connect all of those themes that we discussed and that you jotted down in the first video around who you are, what you do and why people should care and what your value is, because it's going to be on this website that you demonstrate that value and why people should care. And so your content should be emotive or informative, for example, so that that hook gets put in as we go along. The next thing that I'll talk about is around understanding your social media platforms. And there's kind of two elements to this. If you already have fans, then you should absolutely prioritize which social media platforms your fans are already at. And it might be worthwhile going down some kind of like target audience personaing, which I might do as an optional extra video on this series. But the long and short of it is basically imagine and try and jot down the traits and ideals of what you expect your target ideal fan to be, mainly because that also then answers the question of where do they go to find news on music, and then that tells you where you go to submit your PR blog requests to, and gig requests and all of that kind of stuff. But if you prioritize those social media platforms where your fans are already at, then you know that you've already got that engagement kind of coming in and you can build on it. If you don't have any fans yet because you're just starting out or you're tiny small at the moment, then that gives you free reign. But you should also take into account what social media platforms work best for you and tie into your values, but also your work ethic, and also I think like the amount of time and energy that you're going to be putting into social media campaigning or content marketing, I guess is what you could kind of put this under the umbrella of. The idea around this is that if you're a very visual person, especially if visuals are part of the art that you create, say if you are like music and movement, for example, or if you do abstract art that moves around to the music, or you integrate technology with music, then Instagram and YouTube should be the ones that pop up to the top, perhaps TikTok as well, obviously. If you are much more of a campaigner, for example, LinkedIn might be a little bit more up your preferences because that's more of a business standpoint, in which case you're putting for a more formal approach to how you go music making. If you are less around the visuals, or if you don't want to be in front of the camera, then don't be going on YouTube and TikTok, for goodness sake, or Twitch. Maybe going back to much more processed posts where you can sit and type and chat away, maybe add a picture at the end. Facebook could be better for you. If you're doing something where it's much more by the minute going through behind the scenes stuff and you're just like poof, full, popping out of your brain, and you want to engage in that and it's much more conversational, Twitter might be a better option for you. My big key goal here, though, is don't do social media overwhelm. Pick one social media to start with and do it well. And only when you feel that you're confident with that, start to then expand into where either your fans are already at and you start to understand that there's a cross-section between where they are. So say, I don't know, you've been to some folk festivals and you realise that actually there's a big Instagram movement because everyone wants to be a hipster. A terrible decision that I've made that on that video, but you know what I mean, because everyone's all like, oh hey, it's me with some flowers in a field. Great. That's the kind of stuff that you can then tap into on Instagram, because you start to understand what your audience are already at as you start to expand yourself. However, you should still have that on top of whatever you've already got going beforehand. So just baby steps. That's all I'm going to say. Baby steps. Do not scattergun, because you will be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And again, if you aren't keeping up with that narrative that we discussed in the first video, people won't know who you are, what you do, or why, or care, and they will not convert from a listener to a fan that cares. I hope that was informative. I appreciate it was a bit high level, but it's very individual to you. I personally will always recommend someone having their own website and setting it up. I just don't see it as being good long-term business, I guess, to have anything else. But do let us know about your stuff down on the comments below. One thing I will say though is your Spotify page is not your home, and it never will be. Beware. So yeah, I hope that was informative. Drop by for video 3, where we're going to be discussing much more around your visual identity. Until then, take care and get cracking.